now, live. Broadcasting live on the Double Wide Network. It's time for The Real Deal. Join the Ambassador and Danny Q as they put together great guests and honest commentary on a range of issues. But one of their main topics will be preserving Native American tributes in sports team nicknames. These two are also avid fans of music and the arts, and they'll always make time for a great song or two. Now, it's time for The Real Deal. And here are your hosts, the Ambassador and Danny Q.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Real Deal on the Double Wide Network in beautiful downtown Scottsdale, Arizona. It's we're glad to be back, and I hope a lot of people are listening in. We're going to have some interesting commentary tonight and some interesting guests as well. I'd like my co-host, Danny Q, to say hello.
Hello.
And then I'd like our beautiful Lexi, our producer, Lexi Rodriguez. Can you say hi?
How are you guys doing?
We're doing real good.
Good.
And then we have a special guest. That's our first guest that's going to be on is a very close friend of mine from Austin, Texas, is Bali. And tonight we're going to have Mark Beasley's going to be in, and Alex from Beverly Hills is going to be on. Mark Beasley is an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation. So we got an American Indian, and Bali is an Indian American. So he's going to talk a little bit about the culture and how he feels about the Redskins, and he's also a fan of the Redskins and the Atlanta Braves. So I think we're going to also talk to Greg Soika. I forgot about that. Greg's going to be
going back to Lancaster.
Yeah,
they had another meeting on Tuesday, and
right, and railroading them, of course. The school board's trying to run over the community members, not let them have a say. He's going to talk about that, give us the update on that. And because we want to keep an update, try to do it maybe every week to let our listeners know what's going on up in Lancaster, New York. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the city of Buffalo. This last week, when the town got railroaded down there, that's 17 miles out of Buffalo, a little school down there, they got picked on and thugged and intimidated. Because the people some people don't like the name. The people love the name. The community members love the name. The students love the name of the Redskins. And some people don't like it, so they're trying to force them to change the name. And so we took an about face on that. And Mark Beasley is an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation, and he started a petition to drop the name Buffalo to this in Senate, and it's out there. Dan can elaborate a little bit on that because he helped him with that. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, out of all the stuff we did, Ambassador, that one got picked up the most. We have, I guess, the city of Buffalo is all abuzz, and Lancaster is about 15 miles outside of Buffalo. And on top of these halberdder paid activists, quote unquote activists, it was outsiders from Buffalo who came in and helped them storm Lancaster, New York, and their board meetings, and are trying to speak over them. And we have a community, and a lot of great things have happened over this. They've learned a lot about their own history and what Redskin actually means to that area specifically. And it's been a great week. We've had a lot of media coverage. We've talked to Washington Times. We've talked to we mentioned last week Dirty Dave McKenna from Deadspin.
Yeah, what a clown he is.
Man. And this guy just basically screamed at me for 30 or 40 minutes. And on top of that, he proved that we're both a couple of white guys. And you have been deemed a fake Indian.
Oh yeah, and I've never even been to India. That's
Indian. I'm a real Indian.
I know. Yeah, you're a real Indian, Bally. And Bally, you can tell our listeners I've never been to India, have I?
No, not yet, but we plan on taking you.
Okay, thank you.
And you've never claimed to be from India either.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
just putting that on the record.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dennis is so much a fake or a wannabe. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. No.
His accent is horrible.
That's right.
Yeah, and all I know in Navajo are the cuss words, and that's because I grew up there. And and I wanted to let the people know that Mark Beasley's father is Shush Yellowhorse, a great friend of mine, passed away several years ago, and he happened to be my brother-in-law. And I'm married to Jane Yellowhorse, and that's Mark's aunt. And so Mark's dad and my wife were brother and sister. And they're good folks, and I grew up there, and I love the people up there very much, including the family. And Mark will be here in the studio here in just a little bit. But getting back to Buffalo, we have nothing against the people of Buffalo. There's a lot of good people there. But I wanted to bring attention to the people of Buffalo. You have a school 17 miles down the road. These are your neighbors, and they're fighting like hell to keep the name of that school. And I want the people of Buffalo, if you're going to stand up and be with them and fight with them, this is their town, this is their school, and there's a lot of good people in Buffalo that can go down there and put a stop to this and go down there and find out who these school board members are and these jerks that are down there. This John Kane, a convicted arsonist, is down there leading the charge, and he's got a talk show in Buffalo called We Talk Native, and he's a fake and a phony, and he's anti-American, and you'll hear about that later when we bring Greg on. But I think with that, Dan, let's let Bali talk a little bit about why he came into the studio.
Sure. Let me give him a short introduction. Bali is a longtime entrepreneur. Started his first profitable business at age 12. Since then, he's helped develop multiple companies from initial idea through the whole, setting them up and everything else. He's been an executive consultant for companies ranging from startups to Dow 30, including Aventis Pharmaceuticals, IBM, Honeywell, Yum Brands, and many others, helping accelerate new business initiatives to success and profitability. He's a technical genius. He has a huge portfolio ranging from in the entertainment industry, ranging from partners that include Warner Brothers, DC Entertainment, the CW, Sony, Showtime, HBO, and probably dozens more. He's also a humanitarian, helping normalize the availability of food and water across the world. And for nearly 7 years, he's been a key contributor in the development of water reclamation and organic food growth acceleration technologies. And that's how we know Bali. He does a lot of work with Humate International, where we sell pure organic Humate.
Right. Yeah, he does. He's represents my company in India and also
Australia now.
And Australia, yeah.
Well, we're also organic certified now.
Right, we're organic certified, and everybody, it's humate.com. And as soon as the show's over, you can get a hold of us and buy some of our Humate and use it on your farms, fields, feed it to your animals, or resell it. So
it's great in the garden.
Yeah, it's great in the garden. Well, I think with that said, Bally, why don't you tell us why you're here and why you come from Austin?
So I had to come down. I'm a little confused, Dennis. I don't really understand all this name change business. Now, I've been a Washington Redskins fan for as long as I can remember. Obviously, I'm a big fan of RG3. I'm a Texan.
Yeah.
I love the Atlanta Braves. When I was in high school, I was actually scouted by the Braves. Would have loved to have played baseball there, but my parents made me go to college. It really begs the question for me, these great teams with great history, with these long-standing names that really, they're out there inspiring youth to accelerate their lives and to excel and be better than they are today, giving opportunity to people. I don't really understand the nature of all these name change issues. I mean, to me, it sounds like somebody must have a hidden agenda. I mean, that's all I can assess, because,
without a doubt,
as far as political correctness, I don't really remember hearing anyone ask the Cowboys to change their name because it's sexist to the cow people. Or, I don't really remember the Giants. That's kind of discriminating against the little people. So, why the Redskins? Why the Braves? Why the Indians? To me, it looks like an honor to have your culture recognized. because I don't really see anything recognizing, my culture being Indian American. I don't really see anyone saying, hey, we're the Washington Pakistanis or something like that, So, I would imagine it's an honor, so I can't really figure out what these guys are doing.
Right. Well, it is. You're right about that. It's right. It's a total scam. We've said it all along by this Ray Payday Halbritter. He's a fake. He owns an Oneida casino, 2 of them, and he's not an Oneida Indian, and that's proven. That's on the record, folks.
Well, he essentially owns the Oneida Nation.
Yeah, he took them over, and
well, hey, wait. Let's give the guy a little credit because I know a lot of people have talked about all the issues with Native Americans, saying, we know that there's issues with poverty, with drug abuse, alcohol abuse, suicide rates, and things like that. But one of the other issues is unemployment. So I guess maybe this guy's hiring a bunch of people to go start a fake war about the name of a football team. So I guess he's employing Native Americans, right?
Yeah,
give him some credit. Give him some credit.
Yeah, we're going to give him some credit because he flies them around the country. He has a $30 million jet, and he flies activists around, phony activists around, and puts them up in the hotels and sends them out to protest games. I'm not your chief. I'm not your mascot.
I think I'm going to fight for Halbritter because I want to be on the payroll to go get to fly to watch football games. That sounds like a hell of a job to me.
Well, he's always hiring Indians, it seems like. So.
Yeah, you be qualified.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a real Indian, for the record. So you should pay me double.
Yeah, that's right. You get paid double, at least time and a half.
Just being from India, the word Indian gets tossed around in the context of Native American. But what is your experience with American Indian culture, and where do you see parallels, things like that?
I love my Native American brethren. I think there's a closer tie than people realize because you guys crossed the Bering Straits a long time ago, so you're really my people too. But, the culture is one that's very family oriented and it's very supporting internally, which I think I commend greatly. So that's why I said we got to give Halbritter some credit. He's creating jobs here. He's a true American patriot.
And I feel really bad for these kids that he has. They're loving it. He's flying them around the country. They're getting notoriety. They're in the newspapers. They're in the media. They're on CNN. They're on Al Jazeera. They're all over the place. When he's done with them, he's still going to be a billionaire, and they're going to have to go back home to the places that are, like you mentioned, suffering these real problems, and he won't care about them at all. I mean, he doesn't care.
It's clear why he's a billionaire. He's a genius. What he's doing is he's creating a mob mentality, right? So it's no different than a gang where you get people in and you get them in a frenzy and you get them worked up about something, whereas individuals, their own moral and ethical code would probably tell them that they're acting wrong, kind of like what you're talking about, the harassment that people are receiving, especially people going to games with their children. I mean, come on, this is an American pastime. This is a world pastime. This is something that should be bonding people, not separating people, and what they're doing is creating dissension. And, I frankly think that in the end, when he dumps them on their butts, like we all know is inevitably going to happen, some of these people are going to be pretty ashamed and embarrassed by their actions.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And sooner or later, the American public's waking up to this, that this is a scam. This isn't a legitimate movement. We have schools 300 miles from here on the Navajo Indian Reservation called the Red Mesa Redskins High School. And all those kids are Navajos. The teachers are, I think, all Navajos. We have another school up in Shiprock, New Mexico called the Shiprock Chiefs, and they're Navajos.
Is it Chief or Chieftain?
It's Chieftains, but they go to Chiefs for short. And then we have the Tuba City Warriors and the Sanders Braves and the St. John's Redskins. And these are all proud children that wear those logos, and their families wear those logos, and their parents went to these schools, their grandparents went to these schools, and now they're going to these schools, and they want to keep these names. They don't want them changed.
I think the real question, Dennis, that when coming in from the outside is, what do they hope to accomplish? So let's just say that everyone says, you know what, Halbritter, you're a genius. We should change all the names of all these schools, of these teams, everything.
Yeah.
Then what? What was accomplished now?
Yeah.
Do more Native Americans have jobs? Do more Native Americans, is the suicide rate go down? Does the drug abuse go down? I mean,
right.
What positive accomplishments really happening? And so I think that's the question people need to ask themselves.
And I ask them, what's the end game?
Yeah.
What's the end game here?
Well, no, like I said, they changed their name. Then what? Like, what positive accomplishment was accomplished for this planet, for the people, for Native Americans, for people in general? I mean, what did you accomplish?
Absolutely.
And another thing is that, you know, they suffered genocide, they suffered racism, and that still happens. They're still suffering racism, things like that. We're not saying that they aren't. But when you take them, these positive images out of the national mainstream, I think they're worse off. I think what happens is that anyone who doesn't live in those communities, you know, we're lucky enough to know some really good people up there, and that's where we do our business and things like that. But let's face it, how much business do we get just because people say, well, I don't know how to identify with them. I don't know how to communicate with them, things like that. Really, to most people, besides these images, there is no contact. And there are those people up there on the reservation. And what happens when any reference to them from the mainstream is wiped out?
It's social genocide.
You know, I don't want to take away from what's happened to any people as far as their, you know, history and what type of oppression they've faced. But, you know, coming from India, my culture's faced a lot of oppression because in my culture, people often wear turbans and we look different. And so they've been persecuted, tortured, killed. I mean, just pretty much everything that anyone else could complain about. And my personal philosophy, just from watching my father, is that, you know, if you spend a little more time focusing on yourself and bettering your own life, and then reaching out to try to better the lives of people around you, you're a lot happier, because right now everyone's kind of feeling sorry for themselves and they're only kind of digging their own hole deeper and deeper. But their lives aren't getting any better. They're not enriching themselves or anyone else. So I think that's the very simple fact, is that whether there is a point or not is irrelevant. It's what positive impact comes out of this, even if they quote unquote win and the names get changed. You know, what positive impact happened to Native Americans? What happened to America as a whole? What happened to the rest of the world? They didn't do anything that accelerated us as a people.
That's true.
And that, you know, that's, to me, that's the goal. That's the goal of a guy named Hal Britter, you know, is get them out of the public consciousness so I can do whatever I want to them, just like I did to the Oneida people when I turned them into my own corporation and declared myself the leader. And now I steal the land. We talked to Claudia Tenney a few weeks back, and she told us how they stole Melvin Phillips' land that's been in his family for however many generations, lots of them.
Right.
And you think Hal Britter is one of these casino guys too. He doesn't give back to his people. But do you think that the billionaires who have the other casinos really want to? And if they aren't in the public eye, if Native Americans aren't in the public eye in the mainstream, there's a lot of Hal Britters waiting in the ranks to do exactly what he does. They want to take advantage of people. Let's talk about a guy who's not a billionaire. And that's our dear friend Dennis Yellowhorse here. So I met Dennis a number of years back, very randomly. He was actually in Austin, and we just started talking, and I fell in love with the guy. And the reason I fell in love with the guy is because he was trying to do something different. He was trying to take this naturally occurring organic substance that's called humate. And yeah, just for the record, this is not a humate commercial. I'm just talking about Dennis here.
Right.
And, you know, basically he was learning the benefits of humate. And, you know, it's something that the scientific community, Western scientific community, has only understood for maybe the last 15, 20 years, and there's still so much they're discovering about it. Well, go back to Eastern culture where I'm from in India. People have been using humic acids for thousands and thousands of years for some of the same properties that we're learning now. But Dennis's goal was to go out and educate the world on this humate so that he could, in turn, better the world. You know, better food, cheaper food, getting access to more people, and, you know, then take any money Dennis has made doing that, and he's funding this show out of his own pocket to help educate people about not being ignorant. So Dennis isn't a billionaire. Right. You know, Dennis isn't a millionaire. Dennis is just a guy that works hard to teach the world how to be better people. And that's why I fell in love with Dennis, and I've never looked back. I mean, we're brothers at heart, and, you know, I got your back always, Dennis.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I always say this to people too. Dennis has this knack for just assembling like-minded people. You know, I was believers. That's what, you know, that's how I describe the people around Dennis. I was a newspaper editor when I met Dennis, and I was doing a story about Humate because he had contacted us and told us about it. I went and I watched his testimony before the Senate about how he could use it to help clean up oil spilled, racked beaches. And this was during the whole BP incident. And, when I left the newspaper business, I called him up. I said, Dennis, and at that time I was stuck out on the East Coast, and I said, Dennis, what can we do to bring this product out here and to spread this around? Because this stuff is an amazing thing. And there's not a single story. I'd covered some great stories about a great town, Paradise Valley. And, I've covered all over Arizona throughout my time in journalism school with the Cronkite News Service and with the Tribune. But Dennis is the one that I came back to, and I said, hey man, I really, I believe in this. And I think that's kind of how our circle is, and that's,
I'm an American. I was born here. I'm first generation. I love this country. I'm a total patriot, but I do remember where my family's from, and I still have a lot of family there. And I've worked for years now to actually send Humate out to India because I see the benefit of it. And, we're taking whatever money comes from that, and we're trying to put it back into positive causes. So donating it for people that can't afford food, doing shows like this. And speaking of, we're talking about all these billionaires. If there's any billionaires that want to do a positive contribution, maybe somebody should contribute to this show a little bit.
Yeah, really.
So that Dennis doesn't have to fund the whole thing out of pocket anymore.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because the expenses go on every month, and I'm hanging in here, and I want to keep it going because we got a story to tell, and it's a true story. And I tell everybody, this is your show. This isn't my show. This is for you. Well, and I don't care what nationality you are. This is for you. I'm
going to kind of put my money where my mouth is, and we're going to start a collection jar. I'll put the first $100 in.
Oh, thank you. That's nice.
Thank you very much, Bali. Also, tonight after the show, we're going to start a Kickstarter campaign. So if you have, $5, $100, $2, you can donate that to the show and keep us going while we seek steady sponsorship. Yeah. And if you know anybody who might be interested in sponsorship, maybe a business owner who happens to be a Redskins fan or a Braves fan or a Chicago Blackhawks fan or a Warriors fan.
Or, hey, how about just a fan of humanity and human decency?
Sure,
right.
Just because of where I'm from and where I live, I've never been a fan. I'm not a fan of the Redskins. I'm not a fan of the Braves. I'm not a fan of any of those teams. I'm doing this because of the great people we know up there, up north, and in other parts of Indian country, around the U.S., and they came to us and they said, well, you guys have done things like fight for water rights and stuff like that. Can you do anything on this? Because what is happening is that this ilk is taking advantage of kind of the humility and respect and just the honor of other people's opinions that is part of the native culture. And
it does seem an awful lot like one guy doing something for personal gain, doesn't it?
Oh, it is. There's no doubt about it.
Well, the way they call people out, like you were talking about, Bali, at the games and things like that, it's so countercultural to what the Native Americans that we come across really believe. Navajo, they call it Beauty Way, and it's all about respect and forgiveness and humility, and you don't talk over people. You don't make people feel like crap. You just respect everybody. You'll listen to them. You don't have to agree with them, but you'll listen to them. And these people scream over. They make accusations. They call their own people racists, sellouts, backstabbers. I mean, just the worst things that you can call. And you were talking about suicide rates earlier, Bali. Imagine, okay, so suicide is higher in Indian country than any other ethnicity there is in the U.S. And imagine if you were just one of those people, because, with suicide, how many people on the edge don't actually commit it, because something great happened one day. But let's say you're one of those people who's on the edge, and then you have your own people, a gang of them, swarming you at a football game, and they start telling you you're a traitor to your race, and you're a traitor to your people, and you're backstabbing us, and you're no good, and you still like this team because you grew up with the pride and the reverence that these teams give to Native Americans, and to
all people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're inspiration to all people. But how about this? Let's give an open invitation. Sounds like there's some angry people out there, and I think you guys need a hug. So if any of you guys want to come down to this studio today, I'll come outside and give you a big hug. Yeah. I'm a good hugger, I promise. Hal Britter's welcome to come too. That man needs a hug too, I think.
Good look at that. Okay. We're going to take a short break, and I want to tell everybody we're just going to keep going until we get some satisfaction here. So with that being said, here we go. Okay, we're back. That was my man Mick, and I'm sure everybody recognized that song. And in the studio now is Mark Beasley, an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation. Hi, Mark.
Hey, what's going on?
Glad to see you back, brother.
Oh, for sure.
I'm
happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
We had to, because you got to answer to this damn petition, brother.
Yeah.
You posted this petition, and we talked about it a little bit last week, but
Man.
it's blown up.
Yeah, it blew up like crazy. With supporters ranging from people that loved it and told me that they'll stand with me. You know, we'll stand till the end of the fight and stuff. But now, you get some of the negative comments and stuff saying like, "Get alive," or you need to stop. Blah blah. But
I want to read some of the comments because they're priceless.
They're funny. They're awesome.
I am a buffalo. Half the people don't even use their name. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard of. Marvin Zorb says, to show how stupid these name-changing petitions are, someone wrote, my moderator Simon is a giant douche nozzle. I don't know who Simon is or why they have a moderator, but because this is a perfect chance to change Buffalo to its true name. Land ringed by Republican gun-hugging halfwits.
Yeah.
Me and Dennis spent about 30 minutes one day just going through these and laughing our asses off.
Yeah, for sure. I was too. It was
Rolling
amusing
on the
and
floor,
stuff.
man. I thought, whoa.
No one knew how to take it. They thought it was a joke, or they're like, "Wait, is this serious? Or where's this going exactly?" And stuff.
Right.
And it was amazing.
I got to read one more. Scott Norwood said, we demand that you change the name to a non-racist name, such as Rutabaga, New York, or Torque Wrench, New York.
Yeah.
Torque Wrench, New York. Give me a break.
Some of them
go
were
on.
actually excited because there's not too much going up there,
And then, you go to, there's been several news stories, and we've posted a list of those links on our blog under The Real Deal in the News. You go to those comments, and some of the blogs are more right-leaning, and you got libtard in there and everything else. So I was trying to throw around in my head some possible nicknames for Mark Beasley since he's becoming a fixture on the show. At first I was Mark the Beast Beasley, which is pretty cool, I thought.
The Beast.
But Libtard Mark is like my second favorite. Libtard Mark.
It has a little ring to it. It's pretty cool. I like it. I could use it.
Yeah, you can run with it.
Oh, this is my favorite. I don't know if they were referring to me or if this person's last name just happened to be Quigley, but somebody in Augusta, West Virginia, under the name Asshat McQuigley wrote, because this is the stupidest thing I've seen all day, and I've already listened to Obama speak to once.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, few came to realize finally, it was verbal irony after a bit and stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this and stuff.
Right,
but
and
still, we're still pushing the petition. We're still getting supporters.
Oh, let's keep going, and
Yeah.
and we anybody who is tired of this name change scam, go ahead and sign our petition. And if you want to say something funny, that's even better.
No
but,
hard feelings.
Yeah, and then the Downtrend article tried to portray it as a joke.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's a joke or a hoax or anything like that. It's more to make a point. The Native Americans suffered genocide. They have suffered racism. They're still suffering the after effects of the genocide and current racism today. But it's such a pervasive part of our culture toward Native Americans that if you wanted to tie anything into it, practically, you could.
Yeah, I just want the people of Buffalo to stand with the people of Lancaster.
Exactly.
These people are getting railroaded down there, and the school board's railroading them. And we're going to have Greg on here in a few minutes, and he's going to tell you, give you an update what's going on. But it's not good, people, and there's a lot of good people in Buffalo that can go down there and stand with them, man.
Exactly.
And we want you to do that because these guys said this is the first one, and this is not going to be the last one. They're going after all of them, and these are all schools in your communities where your children go. So get off your rear end and get the hell down there and help them. And is Greg in the queue yet? No, he's not in the queue yet. Okay, but he'll tell you. But we're taking this personally here, and this is our fight, and this is their fight, and we got their back, and we're going to try to help them. And we're not going to stop until we get some satisfaction down there. In fact, I'd like to go up there, Mark and I.
That'd be awesome.
And go up there and help them somehow. You send us some plane tickets, folks, and we'll be there.
I just want to call
we'll
these.
throw in some too. But
I want to call these phonies out. I mean, obviously, I'm not Native American. I'm just an Irish Polak trying to make it in the world. But they just need to know face to face. Hey, guess what? I know you're getting paid, and all these people around here need to know that. And they'll deny it, and they'll tell me I'm full of crap and all this stuff. But we have to confront them, because what they're doing, and we talked about this earlier, is they're taking advantage of the Native American culture that says, hey, say what you want to say. I'll listen to you, and I'll make my own decision. We have 90% Native American approval on these issues, on Redskins alone. So apparently that seems to be the one that everyone's going after.
The main focus.
Sure. And it's the one that's more, I guess, not a mainstream relevance to Native Americans. And that's because of the history of it. It's the Redskin warriors, the band of warriors that this is named after. They aren't around today. The same way that Vikings aren't around today. The same way that the volunteers that Tennessee is named after from the War of 1812 aren't around today. And I don't see any kind of difference, And when the Washington Redskins did take on this name, they were in the Northeast where the Redskin Warriors came from. And they were not called the Redskins because of their skin color. They were called the Redskins because of the color they painted their skin.
Right. Let's get Greg on the phone. Greg, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Greg. This is the ambassador, and Danny's here, and Mark Beasley's here. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We got your back, as always. Why don't you give our audience and tell us what the heck's going on up there and what's transpired in the last week or so?
Well, there was a school board meeting a few days ago, and they went through their normal procedure, and then it was open to the residents to speak from the town of Lancaster. But they changed it to an open meeting, and they allowed anyone to come in and talk. And they brought in a busload of Native Americans, and the topic after the meeting and everything, what they talked about, until we got out of there about just 5 to midnight, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. The one Native American described seeing our mural on our high school wall as putting them into post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh boy! Break.
Yeah, and there was just an unbelievable amount of how disgraceful it is and how dishonorable it is, and we have no business having that up there. And again, they just reiterated that we're the first in the chopping block.
Right.
Then in our town, in our county, and that they're going to go after the Iroquois chiefs, the West Seneca Indians, the Cheektowaga Warriors, the Jamestown Red Raiders, and the Tonawanda Warriors, because they do not want any Native American culture or images at all used for anything.
Well, you can count on that. That's for sure. That's a given. That's where they're headed. Not only there, all across the country. And Hal Britter's funding them, and Hal Britter's doing this for his own personal gain. Okay? He's doing it to divert the attention off of him and to try to legitimize himself as a non-Oneida Indian, a phony, a fake, a fraud, a billionaire. So that's his agenda. Book deals, documentaries, probably a movie deal. Who knows? Who cares? But it's all about money with that clown. And Claudia Tenney, who you heard on our first show, confirmed it. She's credible. She's from there. She's an elected assemblywoman in the state of New York, and she's got the goods on the guy. It's simple as that.
She's also an attorney who's, like I said, representing, Melvin Phillips and his family, who are trying to get their land back after it's been stolen by this fiend.
Yeah. Now, you told me the other day that it is in the I guess it's the rules of the school board that the only residents can come in and of the town and can speak to the school board.
Correct. Only the town residents at a school board meeting are allowed to address the board after their regular meeting. But once again, for like the third time, the tables have been changed for this particular group, and they're pretty much allowed to do whatever they feel like doing.
Was the
They were
Go ahead.
bitterly angry
Right.
that other Native Americans came in and did not agree with their definition of redskin,
Right.
which they feel is bloody scalp,
Right.
and things like that.
They don't feel that. That's made
They
up.
were
Greg.
outraged
Yeah,
that
that's
other
all.
Native Americans came in
Yeah, that's
and said,
all
we
made up.
think it's honorable and we don't have a problem with it.
Right. Well, you heard what Robert Dorr said in our first show, how the redskin name got to be, and it had nothing to do with bloody scalps. That's just a bunch of BS that they use to intimidate and thug people. Was the convicted arsonist there?
Oh, yeah. He was sitting there, and during the meeting and that, he yelled out a few things and that. And again, he was never scolded by the board or anything, but we had a 17-year-old student from the school that was scolded out loud by one of the board members and told to shut up and sit down.
Yeah. See, that's why we got to get the names of those board members, Dan, and we're going to publish them, and we're going to go after them. So I hope you're listening, board members. I hope you're listening.
You can find them on lancasterschools.org.
Yeah, I hope you're listening.
And it lists all of them.
Because we're coming after you. We're coming after you, board members.
And there's
have
people
some fun.
like there's people like Brenda Christopher who are coming after their jobs. Literally,
and that's right. And run against them, fire them, get rid of them, impeach them, and shame them. And I want the city of Buffalo, I want the good people in Buffalo to go down there and start kicking some ass and saving some names. That's what I want. And I really mean it. And there's a lot of good people in Buffalo that don't have to put up with this BS and go down there and go after them. This is your show. That's your community. Those are your neighbors, and you can go down there and fight for them. These guys are fighting like hell for themselves, and they're getting run over by a bunch of thugs and a convicted arsonist named John Kane, Kane. I'd like to. I'll find him. I'll meet him. And when I do, it's not going to be good. And I'm going to tell you right now, Kane, I hope you're listening, because I'm going to kick your ass. And I'm all the way back to Buffalo. And you phony bastard. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And Dan can tell you, when I get pissed, I go after him. And he's phonier than hell, and he's a convicted arsonist. He's non-American. And tell him what he does when you guys do the Pledge of Allegiance.
He turns his back to the flag.
Yeah. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice, Buffalo? You got somebody like that in your community? Isn't that nice? And you're letting him go down to a school board? Isn't that really nice that you're letting this idiot do that to these people?
And he still carries the book matches around with him.
Probably has a torch in the back of his car.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier for Hal Britter to have somebody, when he wants to do an insurance scam, have somebody who pretends to protest him and burn his buildings down than it does to hire a professional to be traced back to him.
Yeah, what do you do, burn down a bingo hall?
Yeah.
Nice. Jeez. What a thug. And it just upsets me that the good people of Buffalo and in that community won't go down there and help you guys. And there's a lot of good people up there, and I hope you're listening, that take this as serious as we do. And Greg, we can't thank you enough for giving us an update. What do you think, Al, what's going to happen?
As of right now, the school board is saying they're still reviewing their educational journey, and they are not making a decision right now. But I have huge concerns that, in my opinion, of what's going to happen is they're going to wait for this graduating class to go out, and then they're going to say we're, changing the name and just flip it right over. They have 2 board seats coming up this May for election, and we have Brenda Christopher running, and we have another one in the wings, and we're hoping to take those 2 seats, and that because our feeling is if you are not vocal with us, then we consider you against us.
Right.
And we can't count on you. Because if you're a marginal politician, we don't want you.
Right. Are they still having, with the protesters, are they still having these behind closed doors meetings?
I know that they had the ones in the beginning and everything like that. I've not been made aware of any more to this point right now.
Okay. Well,
I had read something about them providing refreshments for this crew and not the actual wider public that was at the meeting. Is there any validity to that you saw?
I did not see anything like that at all.
Okay.
I saw over 500 residents and supporters of Lancaster High School turned away at the meeting and told there were too many people there for the fire code, so they had to leave.
But they let the protesters in.
Correct.
Yeah. No, that's real fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if you saw it, Greg, but somebody from Lancaster had posted the logo of one of Hal Britter's illegal cigarette empire distribution sites, aka one of his illegal cigarette shops,
right?
For which his illegal cigarette cartel owes the state of New York nearly $1 billion, right?
Yeah, that's a given.
And I don't know if you saw that, Greg, but it was the most demeaning depiction of an Indian.
I did see it.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah. Just also tell the audience, the first-time listeners, and everybody again what your Facebook page is, and so everybody can look at it and sign up or comment or support you in some fashion.
That would be fine. We would appreciate all the help we can get. It's once a Redskin, always a Redskin. Keep the tradition alive.
Okay, once a Redskin, always a Redskin. Keep the tradition alive.
Correct.
And that's the name of the Facebook page?
Correct. It's for Lancaster High School.
Okay, everybody, write that down, and tell them again, Greg.
Once a Redskin, always a Redskin. Keep the tradition alive.
Okay. I want everybody that first-time listeners to write that down and try to support these folks because that's important to us and it's important to them actually. And just
let me add this little thing that I just came home and found out today. The Akron school down the road from us decided they didn't want to play Lancaster High School because of the Redskin name.
Right.
And then another school, Lakeshore, jumped on the bandwagon and said, no, we're not going to play it either. And what was told to me today was the kids really want to play the game. They're not against playing it and everything like that. However, money gets given to the school by the Native Americans because several of the schools have Native Americans there, and some of the money that gets donated to them for their cultural studies and everything like that was told it would be yanked out if they didn't cancel the games. This
is typical name change scam operation. This is what Hal Britter, he went in 2013, he went into Oriskany, offered them a bag of money, probably used John Kane as his bag man. They told him to get lost. Canisteo Greenwood accepted it, even proclaiming that they were going to change the name, but the community raised enough of a ruckus there that their elected board members decided to listen to them. That's one of the reasons why no matter what happens, I encourage you all to just keep making noise, Greg. But, so these Indian reservations in proximity to Lancaster, how far are they away?
The closest one is about 10 miles away, and then the other ones are up to like 50 to 60 miles away.
And have you been to these places? I mean, is there a general understanding of what the conditions are like over there?
The conditions are there's no middle. It's either you live in a mansion or you live in a trailer with tarps on the top. There is no middle income there. There is no middle class. You're either the elite or you're not.
So,
and ironically, one TV station, Channel 4, WIVB here, they went to the reservation and they asked 10 or 12 Native Americans at the reservation if the name Redskins offended them. 11 of them said absolutely not. They've always been the Redskins. What's the problem? I'm not offended. Only one was offended, and his response was, well, how about if there was a team called the Dagos or the Polacks or that? You know, how would that be? But the majority, more than the majority, said they had no problem at all with it.
And as a Polak, my mom's maiden name is Klinowski. I can tell you that I'd much rather be referred to as a Redskin than a Polak, just because that name has honor. They're credited for giving us the ideas that created our democracy. They are credited for actually helping us and teaching us how to fight the British. It was their guerrilla tactics that won a war against an empire that, in straight up battle, would have crushed us.
Right.
Okay. We got. Well, let's thank you for calling and coming on the show. And
thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and we got your back. We're gonna keep bringing you on, and we're gonna keep getting updates. Anything serious happens, you call me.
Okay.
And keep us in the loop. And tell everybody in Lancaster to just keep listening, and we're gonna keep fighting the fight for them, and hopefully some people in Buffalo will take a stand and get down there and help you guys. So that's
we would appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you take care, and God bless, and I'll see you when I see you, I guess. Okay.
And
Thank you, sir.
You know, Greg, I know that you guys brought Joe Milk and Mark Yancey out there. You know, I don't want to self-impose us, but you know, I think. You know, if you could get another group of guys to come out there at a different time and just kind of keep that pressure up.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I know it costs money, but maybe somebody in Buffalo will underwrite it or something. I don't know.
Or even if you guys could just do some kind of collection to help us with our radio station and keep putting the word out, because we're not going to give up on Lancaster. But,
right.
You know, but Dennis is the ambassador is underwriting this show. So anything that Lancaster or any of the surrounding areas, maybe people from Canisteo Greenwood are listening, maybe people from Oriskany are listening, because those are the 3 schools in New York that have the Redskins tribute, can do something to help us. And every little bit helps. Tonight we're going to start a Kickstarter campaign, and by the morning we're going to start posting those links and things like that, and like every little bit would help, because if you guys would just stand behind us, and you guys have been so great on the social media encouraging us, and we're encouraging you, and it's a great relationship. I'm making friends, I feel like, with your community, but you know, we need help. Clock's ticking, you know, the sands are going through the hourglass. So anything that anyone can do to help us. And as Brenda, you know, picks up steam, and whoever else might be running for these empty seats, you know, comes out, we'll be there. We'll be there to give them a forum to speak their minds and keep doing this. But Greg, thank you so much for keeping us updated and keeping our listeners updated. We really appreciate your time, brother, and we're behind Lancaster. Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, I'd like to introduce my friend Alex from Beverly Hills. He come in for the show, and Alex is a businessman, and we do some business together, and he's originally from the Milwaukee area. And he's going to tell you some stuff, how he grew up and some of the things he did growing up, and what the names mean to him. Hi, Alex.
How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for coming from Beverly Hills and seeing us.
No, you're welcome. The thing is, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this. Anyways, Bali actually wrapped up everything I was going to say earlier, so now I'm kind of stumped.
Well,
except
tell us about the way you grew up, the story you told me.
Yeah,
you know.
except for my childhood, because I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this guy here that's causing all this mess, which is kind of bizarre to me. When I heard about this story, it broke my heart, because I grew up with Oneida and Chippewa and Cherokee. Were my best friends as a kid. And I was a Blackhawks fan, And so when I heard that this was going on, and there's actually Native Americans supporting this, I'm like, why? Why would they do that? Because everybody I knew when I grew up, the reason I fell in love with these teams was because these guys, they loved these names. They loved these teams. They meant everything to them. It just put everything together, made them feel important in America.
Yeah, and you went to Indian ceremonies, didn't you?
I went to powwows, man. I used to go up to Oshkosh, Wisconsin when I was a kid. We went fishing. We did family, get-togethers with our family, my father. It's just crazy when I hear about this, because the Chiefs, the Redskins, what's wrong with these names? It's amazing that American Indians have these sports names. And now they're trying to just, rip it all away? It doesn't make sense to me at all. It kind of breaks my heart. And that's why I came out here from Beverly Hills today, just to be part of this show. But what I wanted to really get across is we need people to step up to the plate. We need sponsors, and we need actual American Indians from all over the country to band together and stop this nonsense and say, you know what? No way. This is not going to happen. We're not going to let this happen. So I'm here to actually beg for that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming, brother. It's a Bali come a long way from Austin. You come a long way from Beverly Hills, and I can't thank you enough for sitting here in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, with everybody and telling us what you.
Thank you for your story.
Yeah,
it's a great story,
and it's a true story, ladies and gentlemen. So, looks like we're about out of time, but I want to thank everybody for listening. And again, if you like our show, tell everyone. If you really, really like it, consider being a sponsor or even buy some of our Humate, HUMATE.com. And with that being said, Leslie, can you tell everybody why we're here?
Kicking ass and saving names, Ambassador.
Thank you for listening to The Real Deal. Tune in to The Real Deal with the Ambassador and Danny Q every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and on demand 24/7 right here on the Double Wide Network.